The average Planet Fitness Club carries somewhere between 6 and 8,000 members. The building is about 20,000 square feet. The fire code lets a few hundred bodies inside at once, and the car park out front holds maybe 120 cars. If one member in 5 decided to turn up on the same Tuesday evening, the club could not physically open its doors. Now the other number. That membership costs $10 a month, less than one spin class in Manhattan, and less than the annual fee the same club charges you on top of it. Neither of those two facts is a mistake, and neither one is a loss leader. The company has understood both since 1992 and has never once tried to fix either. Because a gym is not what it looks like. It looks like 40 treadmills in a row, a rack of dumbbells, a wall of mirrors, and a bloke grinding out deadlifts in the corner at 5:30 in the morning. Almost none of that is the business. The equipment is a cost. The floor is a cost. The staff are a cost. The man on the leg press 4 evenings a week is, in pure accounting terms, the least profitable person in the building, and the club would quietly prefer he came less often. The business is a recurring debit sold to somebody the gym is relying on to stop showing up. And sitting one floor above that debit is a second business almost nobody watching has ever thought about, in which the brand on the door makes far more money selling gyms than running them. By the end of this, you will know exactly which member the whole machine is designed around, and why the dedicated ones are treated as a problem to be managed. Right, the $10. Take one signature on one classic card in January and walk it through a single year. 12 payments of $10 is $120. Then the annual fee, $39 at most clubs and $49 at some, charged a month or two after you join, and every year after, whether you have been through the turnstile or not. $159. One member, 1 year, before tax. Hold on to that figure because the rest of this video is that figure being cut into pieces and handed to people you will never meet. Before it goes into the building, I want one number from you. How many months did you keep paying a gym after you had stopped going? Not how long you were a member. How long you paid for a room you had already, privately, given up on walking into. Months, and the monthly figure. One line. I ask because the honest answers underneath this video will be uglier than anything the industry publishes, and because almost nobody has compared that number with anybody else. If you are down there typing anyway, the like and the subscribe are the only thing that tells me these are worth building. Now, the $159. The first thing it meets is rent, and rent is why the modern gym looks the way it does. The box is almost never purpose-built. It is second-generation retail, a dead Kmart, a shuttered grocery, half a Toys R Us, a Sears wing with the escalators taken out. In a mid-market American suburb, that space runs $10 to $15 a square foot a year, so call it $250,000, signed for 10 years and sometimes 15. That is what the club feeds before a single light comes on. Then the fit-out. A commercial treadmill is $5,000 to $8,000, not the $800 you paid for the one in your spare room. And a club puts in 40 or 50 pieces of cardio before it touches the strength circuit. The flooring, the mirrors, the lockers, the HVAC upgrade, and the signage. The company's own franchise disclosure puts total investment for one club at between $1.5 and $5 million. That is the price of the room your $10 opens. Then labor, and this is where the model separates from everything that came before it. Look at what is deliberately absent. No swimming pool, no sauna to be inspected, no creche, no juice bar, no included classes, which means no instructors on a rota, no towels, which means no laundry contract and no laundry staff. What is left is 2 to 4 people on a shift, mostly checking cards and wiping equipment, in a building open 24 hours. A full-service health club can put 40% or more of its revenue into payroll. This one runs at a fraction of that, and every one of those absences was a decision, not an oversight. Add 20,000 square feet of air conditioning and lighting held around the clock. That is comfortably a 5-figure electricity bill, before cleaning, insurance, card processing, and the tanning bulbs. And then 2 lines that leave the building entirely. 7% of everything the club takes, off the top, to Planet Fitness Corporate as a royalty, another 2% or so into the National Advertising Fund that pays for the commercials you have seen. Hold on to those two lines, because they are the entire reason the second business exists. Now the actual revenue, because I have been quietly lying to you with the $10. Very few clubs are full of $10 members. The Black Card sits at just under $25 a month and takes well over half the base. And for that $15 difference, you get tanning beds, hydro massage chairs, a red light body enhancement booth, unlimited guests, and access to every club in the country. So, 6,500 members, 2,600 on Classic at $159 a year, 3,900 on Black Card at roughly $349 with the annual fee, $413,000 plus $1,360,000. Call it $1.75 million a year out of one converted Kmart. Now look at what a hydro massage chair costs to serve. The chair is bought once, the tanning bed is bought once, and the bulbs go on a schedule. No attendant, no booking, no consumable worth counting. That $15 upgrade is very nearly $15 of pure margin on an asset paid for in year one, and the guest privilege costs nothing at all. And here's the figure that does not fit: capacity. That word has been sitting in this video since the first sentence. 6,500 members, 300 bodies allowed inside at once, 120 parking spaces. The maths only works if the overwhelming majority of people paying never collect what they have paid for, and the industry knows the shape of that curve to the week. Roughly 1 in 8 of all new American gym memberships is signed in January. Strava, sitting on hundreds of millions of uploaded workouts, names the second Friday of January as the day the resolution population statistically gives up. About half of new members are gone within 6 months. So price the two customers against each other. The man on the leg press 4 evenings a week uses electricity, hot water, floor space, a parking bay, staff attention, and the service life of a $5,000 treadmill. The member who signed in January and stopped in February cost the club the card processing fee, about 30 cents a month. That is the entire cost of goods sold on a Ghost, and the Ghost pays exactly the same $159 a year as the man who is there every night. That is not a flaw in the $10 gym. That is the $10 gym. The price is set low enough that canceling never becomes urgent enough to action. The product is built so nobody is ever embarrassed into leaving. The judgment-free zone. The lunk alarm that sounds if somebody grunts or drops a weight. The pizza handed out on the first Monday of the month and the bagels on the second Tuesday. A gym that feeds its members pizza is not a gym optimizing for attendance. It is a business optimizing for the smallest possible reason to walk away. And this is the part that makes the whole thing work. Go back to that 7%, because the company whose name is over the door is barely in the exercise business at all. Planet Fitness runs around 2,700 locations and close to 20 million members. The overwhelming majority of those clubs are not owned by it. They belong to franchisees who paid a $20,000 franchise fee, borrowed $1.5 to $5 million to build the box, signed the lease themselves, hired the staff themselves, and carry every dollar of the risk themselves. Corporate takes 7% of their gross forever. But that is the smaller trick. The larger one is that the franchisee is obliged to buy equipment through Planet Fitness and obliged to replace it on a timetable. Cardio on roughly a 5-year cycle, strength on a 7-year cycle. Not when it breaks, when the calendar says. Which means a business with thousands of clubs has a rolling, contractually guaranteed equipment order landing on it every year from its own operators, regardless of whether one new member joins. Equipment sales have at times run as the single largest line in the parent company's revenue. Read that back. The parent company's most reliable customer is not you on the treadmill. It is the franchisee who bought the treadmill and who will be buying it again in 5 years whether or not anybody has run on it. Your $10 is the retail-facing end of a wholesale machine. Then the friction, which is the oldest part of the trade. The annual fee lands weeks after you join, while the enthusiasm is still up. Cancellation at a great many clubs cannot be done in the app that took your money in 4 taps. It requires you to walk into the branch in person or send a letter by certified mail. There is a reason a business that can enroll you from a phone at midnight needs a signature and a post office to let you go. None of this was invented in New Hampshire. Jack LaLanne opened what is generally credited as the first modern health club in Oakland, California in 1936, and spent years being told by doctors that lifting weights would give his customers heart attacks. The man who worked out the money was Vic Tanny. Through the 1950s, Tanny built a chain of 80 or 100 clubs by selling long-term and lifetime memberships paid up front, then spending that cash opening the next club. He was not selling exercise. He was selling paper. The chain collapsed in the early 1960s because a lifetime membership is a liability you have already spent, and most of the consumer statutes governing American gyms today, cooling off periods, caps on contract length, bonding requirements for prepaid dues, were written by legislators looking at that wreckage. Joe Gold opened Gold's Gym in Venice Beach in 1965, and Pumping Iron in 1977 turned it and Arnold Schwarzenegger into the global image of what a gym was. That image is precisely what Planet Fitness was built to reject. In 1992 in Dover, New Hampshire, brothers Michael and Mark Grandal took over a struggling Gold's Gym franchise, could not compete on iron, and went the other way. Cut the price to the floor, strip out the intimidation, and go after the enormous population who had never joined a gym because they were frightened of the one on the high street. Chris Rondo started behind that front desk in 1993 and was running the entire company by 2013. Bally Total Fitness is the paper model at scale, the biggest chain in America at its height, roughly 400 clubs, built on long contracts, in-house financing, and hard selling. It filed for Chapter 11 in 2007, restructured, and filed again in 2008. Then 2020 removed the floor from all of it at once. Gold's Gym filed for Chapter 11 in May. 24 Hour Fitness filed in June and closed around 130 clubs. Town Sports International, which ran New York sports clubs and Boston sports clubs, filed in September with roughly 185 locations. And in the middle of it, members across several chains found dues were still being drawn from their accounts while the doors were legally required to be shut, which produced Attorney General scrutiny. The billing machinery kept running after the building had stopped, which tells you which of the two was the actual business. Regulators did eventually come for the exit. The Federal Trade Commission finalized its click-to-cancel rule in late 2024, requiring that canceling a subscription be as easy as starting one. An appeals court struck it down in 2025, days before it took effect. It is a genuinely brilliant machine, and it is fragile in exactly the place it is brilliant. Every part of it is priced on absence, which means the business cannot survive its own marketing succeeding. If the $10 member turned into a 4 times a week member, the club would need more treadmills, more staff, more parking, and more square footage to serve the same revenue, and the margin would be gone. The second crack is the price itself. In 2024, Planet Fitness moved its headline Classic membership from $10 to $15 for new joiners. That was the first move on that number in about 2 decades. $10 was not a price. It was the entire brand, low enough that canceling never reached the top of anybody's list. 15 is a number people notice on a statement, and the cheap dead retail box that made all of this possible is not cheap anymore, because gyms turned out to be the tenant landlords want most, being one of the few things nobody can buy online. So look again at the room. It was never built for the man on the leg press. He is tolerated. The price, the pizza, the absent towels, the certified letter, the annual fee arriving in month 2, every one of those was designed around somebody else, somebody who signed in January with a genuine intention, who came 11 times, who kept meaning to go back, who paid $159 that year, which works out at about $14 a visit, roughly 3 times the drop-in day rate they could have paid at the door and walked away from. You did not buy access to a gym. You bought a monthly reminder of the person you meant to become, and it was priced cheap enough to keep, which was the point of the price all along. Not a membership, a subscription to an intention. If this changed how that line on your bank statement reads, drop a like and a subscribe, because that is genuinely what decides whether the next one gets made. The buffet video is the closest relative to this one. Another business selling unlimited access, priced on the certainty that you will never collect it. See you in the next one. Now, your months. Go on then.